This video is sponsored by World Anvil. This is the latest installment in a series of videos about the many approaches you can take to create your TTRPG characters. And today we're going to see what happens when you build your character starting with their background. In D&D 5e and in some other games as well, like Pathfinder, you can select a background that describes what your character was doing with their life up until the point where they became an adventurer. Now, a background is not necessarily the same thing as a backstory. You can start creating your character based on the backstory, and we'll make other videos about that approach in the future. But for today, we're going to start with the background instead, the mechanical thing called a background. Backgrounds also give your characters some skills that they would have picked up before they became adventurers, and I'm going to be really curious how some of those decisions might actually go on to inform the character you create. Because, full disclosure, I almost never start with the background, at least not on its own. Sometimes I'll start with a combo that I think is interesting, like a paladin with the criminal background, or a wizard with the charlatan background. If it wasn't clear, I have a type. But starting with a background on its own is going to be a new experience. Additionally, it should be said that Wizards of the Coast has been changing their approach to backgrounds over the course of 5th edition. In fact, the background as a mechanical feature of the character is a really recent addition to D&D. Backgrounds, as we know them, were only added to the game during 4th edition. And they're not even in the first player's handbook. They were in the second, which means the current version of backgrounds appeared for the first time partway through 4th edition. In the grand scope of D&D, that makes them really recent. So I can understand why the creators have been tinkering with them semi-recently. And we're going to talk more about that change in another video coming out later this year. But because backgrounds are changing, that means we're going to create 2 different characters using backgrounds as the starting point. The first will use one of the backgrounds from the player's handbook, and the second will be one of the more recent backgrounds, something that I have access to. I think it's going to have to be from the Spelljammer book. As with all of these character creation videos, I recorded the actual character creation process live on Twitch. I'm doing a lot more of these character creation videos this month, so come follow me on Twitch to catch these live streams. Now, let's jump into the stream. Okay, let's roll a d20 and determine alphabetically what we're using. So it's not exact, but it's going to be pretty close. That's me in the corner. 17. 17th letter of the alphabet is Q. Well, okay, it'll be whatever's after. Oh, wow, there is a Quandrix student. Okay. So this is one with a feat. You know what, that's such a bad example. We're going to re-roll. That's a terrible example. 17. Wow, it really wants me to start with a Q. These would be great rolls if not for what we're doing. 1. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for 1. 4. All right. Athlete. I think this is from Theros. All right, so this is interesting. So this is essentially, it's kind of funny because the athlete is so sort of tied into Theros, which is a very Greek mythology-inspired setting. You strive to perfect yourself physically and in execution of everything you do. The thrill of competition lights fire in your blood, and the roar of the crowd drives you forward. Tales of your exploits precede you and might open doors or loosen tongues. Whether in one of the polises, between them, or among the non-human people of Theros, physical contests and those who pursue them command respect bordering on reverence. Athletes arise from all walks of life and all cultures, and quite often cross paths with one another. And what is the background feature? Echoes of victory. You have attracted admiration among spectators, fellow athletes, and trainers in the region that hosted your past athletic victories. When visiting any settlement within 100 miles where you grew up, there is a 50% chance you can find someone there who admires you and is willing to provide information or temporary shelter. Interesting. Okay. Now, this doesn't have to be a martial character of a fighter or a barbarian, but I don't know that I would go full caster. It would be interesting to be like, oh, whatever's the equivalent of pro-bending from Legend of Korra, like, oh, they're spellcasters and they compete with each other. Something like that could be interesting, but probably easier just to say, well, they're an athletic of some way. Let's look at the personality traits. Let's see what inspires us from these. Yeah, I feel most at peace during physical exertion, be it exercise or battle. I don't like to sit idle. I have a daily exercise routine that I refuse to break. Obstacles exist to be overcome. When I see others struggling, I offer to help. I love to trade banter and jibes. Anything worth doing is worth doing best. I get irritated if people praise someone else and not me. Competition. I strive to test myself in all things. Chaotic. Triumph. The best part of winning is seeing my rivals brought low. Evil. Camaraderie. The strongest bonds are forged through struggle. Good. People. I strive to inspire my spectators. Neutral. Tradition. Every game has rules and the playing field must be level. Lawful. Growth. Lessons hide in victory and defeat. Ooh, I kinda like that. Oh wait, hold on. I just got so excited. I can make a character from a sports movie. Yes. Yes. Okay. All right. Interesting. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Now that's... Oh. I'm going to unpack my thoughts on that in just a minute. Actually, I'm going to do it now. Oh, this is so interesting. Sports movies are ensemble stories. They're one of the few films that we have that are actually truly ensembles most of the time. There's usually a coach who's the lead, but like the team is usually a team. So in that sense, taking a character and basing them on like the tropes or identity or vibe of a character from a sports movie lends itself really well to a team game like D&D. However, there are some sports movies as well, or, you know, the characters have to learn something and go through something and change. So you're kind of really saying like, okay, you all have to trust me that my character's going to learn to play on a team, which is not as ideal, but it could work as long as you're clear with people. Okay, let's think about it. We'll think about that a little more in a moment, because it may be more like a solo character, like, you know, your Rockies, or that's a solo sports movie, and that would maybe make more sense. I don't know what kind of athlete they are, so we'll see. Maybe they are from a team, because some of these are my teammates are my family. I will overcome a rival, improve. I just figured out what character I'm gonna build. I will overcome a rival, improve myself there better. My mistake, someone got hurt. I'll never make that mistake again. I will be the best for the honor and glory of my home. The person who trained me is the most important person in my world. I strive to live up to a specific hero's example. Flaws. I indulge in a habit that threatens my reputation or my health. I'll do absolutely anything to win. I ignore anyone who doesn't compete and anyone who loses to me. I have lingering pain from old injuries. Any defeat or failure on my part is because my opponent cheated. I must be the captain of any group I join. I think I have two ideas for characters, and I could do them both here. So, I don't know if you all know the show, so apologies if you don't, but are we building Roy Kent from Ted Lasso? Or are we building Jamie Tart from Ted Lasso? So we're going to use Roy Kent as our template. Interesting. Okay. Lingering pain from old injuries. Absolutely. He's the oldest athlete on the team. His knee goes bad all the time. That's a great trait to have. It's a fun little detail for role-playing. I strive to live up to a specific hero's example. Or no, we'll do my teammates or my family. I like that. Strongest bonds are forged through struggle. Roy Kent is somebody who has put his team through a lot with the intent of making them better. So he would believe in this. Daily routine he doesn't break. Sure. None of these are as exact. Oh, you know what? When I see others struggling, I offer to help. We have a character. That worked. I was so unsure about whether building someone based on their background would work, and boy, oh boy, it worked really well. We'll just make them a human, because that character and that actor are both human. Let's roll some abilities, and then let's just see what numbers we're working with. Wow, what an interesting spread. I would love to have a lower charisma, actually. In fact, yeah. Ordinarily, I would not do this. Ordinarily, I would say, you decided you were going to roll, so you should roll, right? And if a player said, hey, I would actually love to have a lower charisma, can I switch to using point buy or standard array? I would probably say, sure. If you're wanting to put the 8 into charisma because of role-playing purposes, okay. I think I'd be all right with that. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say 8 in charisma. Well, now here's the question. What kind of athlete are they? Well, what class are we playing? That's the other question. We should figure that out. This character could easily, in a D&D world, play a game like football, non-American football. That could easily exist. Anyone who can kick a ball can create a game like football. So I'm inclined, Unkillable Mr. Steak, we're on the same page. I'm inclined to say this is a monk, right? If you take a character like Roy Kent and just say he's doing a lot of kicking, In which case we are gonna up the dex and up the constitution. Or you know what? He's getting older. I'm actually going to take something away from Constitution. I'm going to give him higher Wisdom. I'm going to give him a good strength, a decent strength, because Roy Kent also does not an insignificant amount of headbutting on the show Ted Lasso. Basically, average intelligence is probably pretty appropriate for this character. And as we've said, the lowest charisma I can realistically get. He's not based on Roy Kent, although he kind of is. And we'll actually do a whole other video some other time about making a character based off of a specific character from other media. But we're just referencing it as, like, you know, a jumping off point. I'm not really going to name him Roy Kent, am I? That's not what I'm doing. I'll use a picture of him, but I'm certainly not going to name him Roy Kent, am I? Kent Roy is actually pretty good. I like that. Owlbear, Kent Roy, why not? It's not technically Roy Kent, but, you know. I'm not naming him Roy Kent because this is not the video about making a character based off of a specific character. Ken Troy. I mean, Troy, I like Troy. Troy. I kind of like just naming him Troy. One of the suggestions, I have to use this last name. I was like, well, maybe I could give him like a fantasy-ish last name. Like a kind of classic D&D last name. And the first result is Chest Gaze. Troy Chest Gaze. Hell yes. Oh, that's so good. All right, cool. We have a character. His equipment doesn't really matter. Cool. That is a great character. But, as I mentioned at the top, feats have changed. So we are going to also create a character. Troy Chest Gaze. I can't. It's so good. It's so good. I love it so much. Is it a stage name? Who's to say? All right, we're going to make a character based off of a background that has a feat baked into it. That's a different challenge. Okay. Shoot. I don't have the digital version of Spelljammer. I only have the physical one. I didn't realize that. All right, so I'm going to grab my Spelljammer copy. I'm going to pull up, I've got the Astral Adventurer's Guide. We got the Astral Drifter and the Wildspacer. So I'm going to just roll and see which one we're going with. 4, evens, Wildspacer. So this is the feature, Close Encounter. You had a harrowing encounter with one of Wildspace's many terrors. You escaped with your life, but the encounter left you with a scar or two, or perhaps a recurring nightmare. Roll on the Close Encounter table to determine which creature nearly got the best of you. We'll just roll a d10. I could just pick. You can always just pick. I just like to roll. 7. Nyogi, which are like the spider eels. Okay. Feature. Wild Space Adaptation. You gain the Tough feat from the Player's Handbook. In addition, you learned how to adapt in zero gravity. Being weightless doesn't give you disadvantage on any of your melee attack rolls. That's cool. I have an idea, actually, for a character based on that. These don't give you personality traits anymore, which I think is a huge bummer. And I do not like that. But for our purposes today, we're still going to use the background as presented. So what I like here, and again, the goal is to find something in here that gives you inspiration for another character. So because I say he, who knows? Because the character is tough, I'm picturing them again as a fighter. I don't know why. Like a fighter or a martial character. And just because I like the idea they're in front lines, maybe they could be a barbarian. I don't know. It's just picturing them as a fighter or a martial character. And then the fact that they are adapted to weightless combat, to me, that gives me the inspiration of making them a battle master. And now, granted, you become a battle master later in your adventuring career when you actually get to level 3. But the reason why is because I like the idea that they're so good at assessing the battlefield that being weightless doesn't hinder them, and it stands to reason that you could then say, well, because they're that kind of fighter, they're really good at reading the battlefield, and because of the same skill that allows them to be weightless, and that means they could be a battle master and be really good at that kind of fighting. So I think I would make this a fighter. And I like the idea that they've been like, okay, well, I saw this terrifying monster, and made it out alive, I'm going to train so that next time I see something like that, I can actually take it down. Kind of like, ooh, is this like a Captain Ahab? Like, it may not be that literal of like, oh, no. It's not Captain Ahab. Because Captain Ahab had one specific monster that he was going after. But Nyogi aren't like beholders or vampires where it's like, oh, there's that one I need to go fight again. I mean, maybe it is. I don't know. You could obviously say they have a grudge against a specific Nyogi, but it's more likely that your DM's going to have you fight a bunch of Nyogi. So this is not Captain Ahab. Very close. It's Quint from Jaws, because he is ready to scrap with these monsters again, and he's training and he's getting better at fighting these kinds of monsters. Manuel, you referenced Indiana Jones with the snakes. Yeah, but I think that's another way to go with it, is to say, oh, this character is afraid of this thing. But I think it's more interesting not to say just that he's afraid, but that he's like training to fight things because of his encounter. He's become a better fighter because of his encounter. I can make them any race. But right now, what I'm feeling is the Astral Elf because of this one reason, and it's so silly. The light manifests as a starry gleam in the Astral Elf's eyes, right? They have a little bit of starlight in their eyes. And besides that, their eyes just look dark. Now, if I say the words to you, black eyes, like a doll's eyes, what character do you think of? Now, granted, Quint from Jaws is not the one with black eyes like a doll's eyes. That's just a quote from him. But it links that in a way that, to me, makes me happy. Like, I don't know. I kind of like that. But yeah, I think I like what that has enabled us, based on the background, which was the Wildspacer, coming up with a character that I think is pretty cool. The Wildspacer who had an encounter with the Nyogi and is now like hunting monsters, particularly hunting Nyogi, and is going to be, you know, once they reach level 3, a Battle Master fighter, because they have the feature from being a Wildspacer of being able to fight in zero gravity, and that makes them a lot more adept at like positioning and adjusting the locations of their companions and things like that. Now, like I said at the top of the video, I'm going to make another video soon about 5e's backgrounds and how they've changed recently with releases like Spelljammer, but I think you can tell how I prefer having these traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws. But in both cases, it's totally possible to take your inspiration from the background and just see how it inspires you. For example, I don't know if you could tell, but there was a specific point with the athlete background where I started thinking about sports movies, and then another specific point where I realized I was inspired to use some of Ted Lasso's characters specifically as the inspiration. Likewise, the Wildspacer's traits led me to the class that best fit the character, and the chart of possible dangers the character encountered helped inform my choice of ancestry, albeit in a roundabout way. So, if this isn't a method you've used before, give it a try. It might not seem like there's as much room to play in the space with backgrounds, but I think each of them still offers potential for you to find something really cool to use as a springboard. Of course, if you're playing in someone's original homebrew campaign, some of these backgrounds might not be the best fit, and it can be really hard to know what is and is not appropriate for that world. But you should work with your GM to find a way to make these backgrounds align with the design of their campaign setting. For example, you probably know that using a Wildspacer background from the Spelljammer campaign setting might be a hard sell for a non-Spelljammer campaign, but maybe the Wildspacer background could be adjusted to suit an underwater campaign. And maybe your GM doesn't want to include a sport like the ones in the athlete background because, for lore reasons, each kingdom has completely different sensibilities, so they'd have different sports. So maybe you can compromise by figuring out a different background feature that doesn't hinge on the athlete's fame if that's not what's most important to you about the character concept. But the most important lesson here is to have open lines of communication with your GM. And if your GM has important information about their world that you should have before you make your characters, they should share it with you, which they can do easier than ever with the help of today's sponsor, World Anvil. World Anvil is a fantastic online toolkit that gives you the ability to share content about your world with your players in the form of convenient articles. You can tell your players about the lore they need to know, the NPCs they deal with, the timeline of relevant events, and even tools to play role-playing games through the website. Plus, they actually give you really helpful templates and categories, including resources your players might need, like your homebrew races and classes and backgrounds, or any house rules you want to share with them. And if you visit worldanvil.com/supergeekmike and use the promo code SUPERGEEK, you can save 40% off of any annual membership. Once again, that's worldanvil.com/supergeekmike and use the promo code SUPERGEEK. Thank you so much to World Anvil for sponsoring this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe. I have a bunch of character creation videos coming up this month, and they're going to be a ton of fun. You can support me financially by joining my Patreon. You can hang out in my Discord server to be part of an awesome community of people who just love these games, and you can sign up for my newsletter to catch future updates. If you want to see the character creation process in action for other game systems, check out my video about creating my very first Pathfinder character. Until next time, play fair and have fun.